So it's 3 o'clock. I invite you to take your seats and we'll call this meeting to order. Well, I think Ms. Miller is otherwise occupied. Will you do the roll call, Ms. Miller?
Mr. Perkins? Mr. Stevens? Here. Chairman Benson?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
And Ms. Campbell. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Perkins has agreed to lead us in the prayer and the pledge, and we invite you to join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, God, indivisible. Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Before the next item of business, which is the adoption of the agenda, I want to make a couple of remarks. We run our meetings per Robert's Rules of Order. And we've gotten a little loosey-goosey about that, and I take blame for doing that. And I want to sort of rein us in about some of the rules of Robert's Rules of Order. And Mr. Pugh will serve as our parliamentarian as elected in the organizing session. But just to remind you, for all of our conversations, there must be a motion on the table and a second, and all of our remarks must be germane to that motion. And when we come to things like unfinished business, that needs to be added to the agenda when we adopt the agenda. And when you want to have a discussion under unfinished business, there needs to be a motion. Everything needs to be driven by action. The other thing is, and we typically do it this way, we call on everyone in order, but everyone gets a chance to speak before anyone can speak a second time. And under Robert's rules, you are limited to 2 times to speak on a subject. I will say that I think that I'm comfortable with some latitude on this because you are all elected officials, and whenever I mute you, I am muting your constituency. So if you need to speak a third time, I'm not going to be hard-nosed about it, but I would ask you to think about limiting yourselves to speaking 2 times on any agenda item, and we'll sort of do that as we may. And other issues may come up regarding Robert's rules, and as we're cycling back and tightening up a little bit, if questions come up, you're invited to ask those questions about this, and we'll let Mr. Pugh be the arbiter of that. Okay. Having said that, we come now to the adoption of the agenda. We have one additional item, which is on a handout, number 9F, which is General Resolution GR 2459A. Does anyone have anything else to add to the agenda? Then I would like to add under unfinished business, backflow preventers. And that would be 13A. Yes. Okay. Bulk waste. Okay, so we have 2 under unfinished business. Does anyone else have anything else to add to the agenda?
Madam Chair, just on the board.
Okay. And you don't have to put that on the agenda. That will be fine. Okay, then we're adopting the agenda as amended. Please vote. Oh, we need a motion in a second. Sorry, Mr. Stevens. Already, man. It's been moved by Mr. Stevens and seconded by Mr. Campbell. I apologize.
And Madam Chair, just for the record, I thought too, under Robert's Rules of Order, that there's always a time to discuss.
Oh, yes.
After
Oh, yes.
the second, so, okay.
Oh, yes, there's always time for, but it just needs to be germane, and, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Perkins, we added the handout item 9F to the agenda, and also under unfinished business, backflow preventers and bulk waste. And it was moved by Mr. Stevens, seconded by Ms. Campbell, so. And it passes 5-0. Thing. I can't make this go away. There are no public hearings. We have one person who has requested to speak under open forum, Ms. Mary Allison Husky. Ms. Husky, if you will come to the podium and press the button. Sometimes it's a little hard. It needs to turn green. And give your name and your address. And you have 5 minutes.
My name is Mary Allison Husky. My address is 4 Ruberia Avenue, Pensacola, Florida, 32507.
You're recognized.
Okay. I'm actually here today in the building for a separate issue, but this is the second time having an issue with ECUA that has required over 2 months and multiple calls and visits in person to resolve. My super responsive County Commissioner, Mike Cole, suggested that I attend one of these meetings after not getting my issues with ECUA resolved. 2 months ago, I called and visited multiple times over 3 days to turn on water service for a property where I'm building a house. I have to tell you that my final solution was to have my own private residential water well installed, even though there is an ECUA meter box on my property with water that flows if you turn the valve. Even though a box was on my property, ECUA had no evidence of it in their systems or on their own maps, even though Ron Courier, the senior engineering technician, tried kindly for 2 days in a row to try and get to the bottom of it after I was completely dismissed multiple times over the phone and in person by the customer service team, except for Willie, but including Wynette Villains, who is customer service supervisor. Eventually, I brought in undisputed evidence of photos of the ECUA water meter with water flowing from it. And why not asked me to send the pictures and video to her email, and then she sent me away. Later, I guess she reached out to John D. Gross, senior utility technician, who admitted that they had made a mistake. He said that in September of 2022, they went to install service 2 doors down from my property. Instead of installing the meter 2 doors down where the neighbors requested it, they installed it accidentally at my house and then went back to install another one at the proper address, but chose not to remove the surface they installed at my property. He suggested that I be the one to pay for the tap fee. Wynette decided to move forward by charging me for the entire impaction fee, even though I bought the property a year after it was installed, and I was unable to be on site as a homeowner as the impaction was being done, and I did not have any say at all about where the impaction was located on the half-acre lot, and the current location does not line up at all with the planned build. I asked if we could split the fee, if I could pay for the 808 meter fee, and they could cover the $845 impact fee, and I could pay for the $21 deposit. She said no, and that I had to pay the $1,675 fees, and then they would resolve the order to deliver a meter to the box already installed on your property in error. And that unfortunately ECUA technicians made a mistake, but that they cannot negotiate fees as a government entity, although in the same email thread she had informed me that the neighbor 2 doors down had, quote, canceled the service and was refunded all the applicable fees and still had an active meter on her location. At the very least, it is not the responsibility of ECUA to put some sort of tag or something in my box saying that it was a mistake and that anyone buying the property would be responsible for $1,675 in impact fees? Because I felt like this was unfair. I spoke to the county building department and they suggested that I call my representative, Lois Benson, but her voicemail stays full and it hangs up on you. So I emailed her multiple polite emails. She only responded to one. and without asking any questions, told me that I had to pay the fees, and then ignored my emails where I said I felt slighted and would like to discuss it further. And there's no one above her that I could find, so ECUA did not have to provide me any further solutions. If I was a typical customer, I would have to pay an outrageous $1,675 for access to water that was already there when I bought the property, but luckily I called around, had the financial ability to install my own water access with Clyde's well service, but most customers would not have this option at $7,630, so I think that it is time for y'all to have better customer service and lower costs to access water, pipe impaction, seeing as how it is a necessary utility. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Husky. And I will open this up to speakers, but I want to start by apologizing for any lack of communication. I do not recall any of these emails, and I do respond, so I apologize sincerely. And now I'll call on other members. Mr. Stevens.
And so, Ms. Husky, I'm just trying to dissect, because that was you were, and I got it. You were on a roll and had a lot to put out there. No, you're fine. I didn't want to interrupt you. But so, as I understand it, there was already a meter there. I know we have impact fees with obviously all homeowners, yourself and everyone. But that you would have been responsible for, I'm assuming, and again, I'm asking this, and then of course I'm gonna have my staff interject if I misspeak myself. You'd have paid for an impact fee, I guess, to have a tap regardless. There just happened to have been one there in error that you're trying to tie into. Is that, understand that correctly?
But if there had been like they said that if there had been a meter that was, because the water is already running through the tap and there was a pipe on the other side. So if there had been like the thing that reads the water.
The meter, yeah.
They would have just been able to turn it on without impaction fees. And down the street where she still has that meter, she's in jail, the neighbors have said. So if she sells the property, I wonder if they will be responsible, because they returned all of her fees. So if the new owner would be responsible for paying an impaction fee on a meter that does have the meter part that runs in it, because they said if it has that part, the people don't have to pay for the impaction fees.
Well, I mean, typically the impact fee for the initial residence is paid, by I guess the homeowner or the builder, developer, whatever the case may be. I don't think everybody once that person moves in there, right, the meter's there, then you just pay a connection fee and that sort of thing. So unfortunately, that is the nature of the beast.
I just didn't own the property when it was done,
You didn't own the property when you called to have it?
I didn't own the property when the meter was installed on the property.
And so you were trying to get connected to that meter, but it was in the wrong location.
No, I mean, it's not the location I would have chosen for the meter if I was there on site. While if I had ordered an impaction, asked for an impaction from y'all, I could have been there on site, and then I could have had some sort of say, it's a half an acre, so it's a big amount of water, land front, waterfront's on the bayou. So I'm putting a house on one side. So I would have asked that it could have been tapped in on that side so that it would have lined up with my plumbing for the house. But because it was done before I ever owned the property, I had no say in that.
So it was less expensive for you to have the well water tied in than it was for you to have a plumber connect from your residence to the existing tap?
No, it would have been cheaper to have gone with y'all, ECUA, and paid the $1,675 instead of paying to install my own well for $7,000.
Okay, all right, I understood that correctly. I was like, wow, wells have gone down.
Yeah, but I just was not, I just wasn't willing. I asked, multiple times for solutions, and there was not any wiggle room. So I decided to go a different way and have my own source of water.
Okay, but we gave you, and again, I apologize if there was a miscommunication. Because we pride ourselves on customer service, and like I said, I can just chalk it up to not purposely, but a miscommunication. But you had the option of paying the $1,000 some odd for the impact fee because there wasn't a meter on there. But you opted to have the well service installed because you again, you're upset, rightfully so.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like you got the answers you wanted, but you just opted to have the $6,000 well installed as opposed to the $1,000 connection fee.
Yeah, the $1,600 connection fee. I'm just saying that's the lack of customer service, leaving me feeling any sort of way wanting to be do business with ECUA,
Sure.
you know?
Okay, well, like I said, I'll second Ms. Benson. I apologize about the miscommunication and so forth. And I'm sorry that you spent that additional
Yeah.
money or
I'm
felt you
just
had to spend that
here
additional money.
today to try and handle something with customer service, that it's the third time where I'm having to do it in person now, because over the phone, the people aren't they're like almost hanging up on me, saying that they can't, you know, oh, I'll call you back, and then no call back, and, you know, so I'm here in person.
Well,
Even
you've
though
got
last
the
time
board
in
members
person-
listening to you as well as our director there, so it's not
Last
falling on
time it
deaf
took
ears.
2 days in person still to get any sort of answer, you know?
Right, okay. Well, thank you. I apologize again.
It's okay.
Mr. Perkins.
You know, off of work,
Yeah.
driving from Brancos,
So
you know what I mean?
Mr. Perkins is recognized.
Just want to make sure they're not still trying to charge you the impact fees or anything now that you've got the well, are they?
No.
Sure of that.
Mr. Woody, would you respond as to what the protocols are for impact fees and this sort of thing? Because she seems to have, understandably, been caught in what was a confusing situation. Seeing the meter there, you would think you had water. So if you will kind of walk us through what can and can't be done.
Ms. Husky and I talked just briefly before the meeting started, gave her my card, and we already have an appointment to talk tomorrow afternoon. I'll have Gabe Brown join me in that conversation.
Thank you.
The circumstances, I'm only aware of your side of the story. Certainly, I'll need to
Yeah, you
gather
weren't
some
part of
stuff
it.
on our side as well. But based on the information as you presented it, don't mind me reciting some of the things I heard you say, so you can correct me if I heard them wrong. It sounds like you purchased a property in which the service line and meter setter was there, the box, but it didn't contain a meter, but it was a setter. And our staff is telling you that it was installed there by accident. It was originally intended for a property a couple doors down. I don't know the reason for the error. Rather than remove it, they just left it in place, made a correct installation for the other neighbor, but left the other one. And then you purchased the property. It already had the meter setter there for the meter, but had no meter in it. With that as a background, let me draw the distinction between two fees that any property owner is charged. One is an impact fee that is required of all new construction on new lots, and it represents the cost associated with adding additional customers. There are not just costs associated with making the physical connection in front of your house. There's costs associated with well capacity, transmission capacity, and things related to pipes that are far away from your property. And those funds go together and are collected and spent every few years on increasing that capacity, replacing major construction items. For instance, next year we're getting ready to build a large transmission main using impact fees generated for that exact kind of purpose. So that would be applicable in any situation, despite whether there was a meter setter there or not. The fact that you got onto the property and one was already installed by accident, if that fleshes out with what our records indicate, I would say the resolution to that probably would be if we installed it by accident, it was already there when you got there, I would say we would waive and not charge you any fees for installing that meter setter, provided you used the one that was already there in the location where it already is.
Right.
If of your own choice, you would prefer to have it someplace else, either for convenience or what other conflicts with whatever you're building, et cetera, then I think that would be an expense that you would need to bear as if it were brand new and
I
there was
agree.
nothing already existing.
Yeah.
That's how I would propose to resolve that.
Yeah.
The impact fee would still apply. Meter setting charge would only apply if you wanted a new one at a different location. You want to use one that's already there. You got lucky and got one for free.
Yeah.
You didn't mention to them, but I know you also have a concern with a prior property,
Yeah, I have
a winter average issue. And I think
Yes.
Mr. Brown and I should be able to quickly resolve that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I'll go, I'll probably head over there next to try and,
Okay.
and I have to mention, Willie, customer service has always been super nice. He's the one employee that's really tried to find solutions, get to the bottom of things. So I want him to have credit, even though I kind of blasted the customer service section.
Thank you for saying that.
All right, thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Husky. We do record all of our calls, and I will request that that Gabe, Mr. Brown, review the calls with you to make sure that if we need to do any other work with our customer service people, that they be counseled.
That'd be great, thank you. I
and-
just don't want other people to be, I'm speaking not just for myself, but I've seen
Sure.
people in the waiting area, you
Sure.
know.
Sure. Ms. Husky, we have one more board member who wishes
Yeah.
to speak, and that's Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Ms. Husky. Just a couple questions for my reference. How long was this ongoing?
So I called one day multiple times, and they just kept saying, nope, there's no meter there. Nope, we have no evidence. There's no way we can do anything. Nope. And then I came up here, and I waited for 30 minutes for customer service, but then it was close to closing, so I realized that there was somewhere for if you're building new upstairs. So I went up there to see if there was a different way to talk to somebody different. And that's when Ron was real helpful and pulled up the map and tried to get to the bottom of it. And then the next day he came downstairs with me. I came back with the videos and the pictures, and he's like, I'm gonna come downstairs with you because this is crazy, you know? And so he came downstairs with me and then stood there. They tried to dismiss me with him, and then I stood there until, a supervisor got I don't want to call for a manager. I'm not one of those people. And so, but anyways, he stood there with me, and then she took my information, but she was like, okay, see you later. So.
A couple of days?
3 days.
3 days?
Yeah, 2 in person and 1 over the phone, multiple times over the phone.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Campbell.
I just want to thank you very much for coming out and speaking with us. It's admirable when citizens come here. It's not easy. It's,
No, I'm nervous.
It's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
So I really want to thank you for coming out and speaking with us, and I know that staff will get with you and get things straight.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Yes, and I thank you as well, and we'll leave this to Mr. Woody to
Okay.
follow up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
And good luck with your new home.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I have no more pink slips before us, so we come now to presentations. And the first presentation is Career Exploration Program presentation.
If I can make a brief introduction, you may remember that I, in the last board report, made discussion a little bit about the Career Exploration Program. All credit goes to Sigrid for coming up with this wonderful, inventive way to outreach to folks coming out of our education system about career opportunities in the world of public service and public utilities. So Sigrid, together with many of our staff members, put on a wonderful program. I won't steal her thunder since she has a presentation, but I really appreciate her work last week, as well as staff's.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. I just want to share a brief, summary of our week last week. We had a wonderful program, first year of our program, and I want to second what Mr. Woody said. This wouldn't be possible without all the staff who, dedicated their time and their talent and their knowledge to this program. So I want to thank everybody who's involved. So initially, the goal of this program was really, number one, to enhance understanding. Everywhere I go, I value the opportunity to share information about how utilities work. And, many people take that stuff for granted. And so when you get to share a little bit more about how the process works, it's always very gratifying to see it when it clicks for people and they understand. So doing that for high school age students was a goal for this program, to kind of give them an understanding of how the utility processes work that ECUA provides. Secondarily to that is job awareness. So I know many students don't grow up thinking like, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a wastewater treatment operator. But, you know, those are very rewarding careers, and we want to allow students the opportunity to see that that is, you know, a valuable career path. And then also community engagement, I think, was a great goal for this program. We had a lot of sponsors involved. We had local businesses sponsor lunch, and we had one lunch and learn, so a local business came in to do a lunch and learn with the students one of the days. So I think there's a lot more opportunity for that in future years as well. All right, so day one was, our focus was sanitation. So we did go take a tour of sanitation. We got to see their garage operation out there. And we did get to operate the lift arm in a garbage truck, way harder than it seems. I tried it myself, way harder than it seems. And we did drive out to the landfill as well. We got as close as we could, you know, without driving up to the top. But that was, I think, valuable for the students who hadn't seen that before. So landfill, that was day one. Day two, we did the drinking water side of things. We also toured our water quality lab as well as the SCADA operations. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, everyone's favorite part was getting to open up a fire hydrant. Is that accurate? Okay. Let's see, what else about that? We got to run some tests in the lab. That was very cool. And we did get to see 3 well sites. So we saw an established well, we got to see the Alvin McCorvey Memorial Well in progress, and then we also got to see the Ellison well, which features the GAC vessels. So we got to see a little bit, a good variety of everything. Day 3, we had a great morning with our GIS department. The students did a geocaching project all around our campus here. They used an app that Aaron developed. They all downloaded this app and then were able to use GIS to go find all these points around our campus. And the fun part was that each point had a QR code, and they had to scan the QR code, which got them a letter, and then they had to come back and assemble a phrase with all the letters. So they had to figure out what the phrase meant. And let's see, they did a map activity. So they looked at some of our very old utility maps that ECUA used to use before we had electronic GIS. And then the rest of that day, we got to do a fog inspection at a food service establishment, which I think was pretty disgusting, right? That was the smelly day for some reason, because we also got to visit a lift station. So they got to see or smell all the smells. Day 4 was our MRF tour, and we got to sort on the line. We got to experience what that's like. It's kind of like a game. You know, you're trying to get all the stuff off the line that shouldn't be there. So it is kind of game-like in that sense. And then we came back in the afternoon. We actually made our own recycled paper. So we used paper egg cartons, and we used past editions of ECUA's customer pipeline. So they don't go to waste. We made some paper with them. And then last day, day 5, was our wastewater and our compost tours. So you can see there pictured, some of the students are doing a sampling activity out at CWRF. And then they got to see our compost facility and got to climb up in the windrow machine. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And I just want to thank our sponsors that we had for the week. We had Dickey's Barbecue Pit, Litvack, Beasley, Wilson & Ball, Fusakli's, Loyalty Credit Union, Marco's Pizza, and Buffalo Rock. So big thanks to all of them for supporting this program. Okay, and at the end of the week, we did take a survey. So I wanted to get student feedback on how the week went. And so here's some quotes. So favorite day, wastewater, I enjoyed how active it all was. I really enjoyed talking with people working and really getting an inside look at how the whole system works. Would you consider a career at ECUA? I would say yes, it offers really good pay and has room for career progression, and you only need a high school diploma for most jobs. Would you recommend this program to a friend? Yes, it's very fun and you learn a lot. Yes, you will learn a lot you do not know, and it is really fun to do. Biggest takeaway, I would say learning how much goes into actually doing what ECUA does, and I didn't realize the process was this complex and precise, and it was overall a good learning experience. So that was great to get some feedback from them. All right, so I am looking forward to doing this again next year. I think it was very worthwhile, would y'all say? Yes? Awesome. So we do have some certificates to present to our students. So Natalie, if you're willing to take some pictures while we do that. If all the students could come up and join me at the front here, that would be great. And I have one more, Mr. Woody.
Madam Chairman, I'll call out names and introduce you to students who participated.
Thank you, please do.
DeMarcus America.
Get a picture of him? You want a picture?
Yeah, can we get a picture?
Yeah.
Next is Nehemiah Branch. Next is Gabriel Davis. Seth Corliss.
Math life.
And Miss Paige Corliss.
Awesome.
I had a question too.
Yeah.
I don't know how many she's got.
Ms. Campbell, you are recognized.
Thank you. It's so nice to have Sigrid aboard. She's out there telling our story and seeking solutions all over town. I see her everywhere, and she speaks so well and speaks in layman terms so that her audiences can understand what the ECUA does. And this is the best program I think I've seen yet at ECUA. It's wonderful. We need young people to be involved and to come out here and work. So this is fabulous. Can I ask how are the students chosen? Are they?
Yeah, so for this first year, I basically created a recruitment poster, and I blasted it as many places as we could, and it just had a QR code where someone could go and fill out an interest form, and I would get the interest form, and I would email them our waiver, essentially, and if they got me the waiver, they were admitted. So that was how it went for this year. In future years, perhaps we might need more of a selection process if it does grow in popularity. But I want this to be available to as many students who are interested in participating.
Thank you. I think it, if I may continue, I think it is going to be a very successful, even as much as Youth Leap, because you have a really bubbly personality. I would like to know, is there any way we could add one day that they could see what the board does, because we need future people up here as well, people to be leaders in the community, and I think that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. I'll put that in my notes for next year.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. I mean,
Thank
I think
you.
you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My comments are similar. Just wanted to say thank you, particularly for thinking outside of the box and going to where the customers are, future customers and potential employees are, and bringing them on board to see what we do. And then congratulate all those who participated and say, just congratulations. Thank you for being a part of Seagram's inaugural
Yeah,
summer program.
right.
So
They
good
were an
job.
awesome class, too.
Outstanding. So good job on everybody, and thank you.
And I do just want to say, too, I can't take all the credit. Natalie actually attended a conference last year, and she heard from someone that they were doing at summer camp. So we kind of took it and ran with it. So,
Very well.
yeah,
That
absolutely.
works.
So are we continuing to keep in touch with these people who do this? Because it would be beneficial later on to talk to them as they go into college to see if they still have interest and to help them with, choosing courses and that sort of thing. I mean, I see this as an important recruitment tool. If they're interested now, their interest can grow.
I have a note on that in my own documentation of this program. I have a note on that, and it's kind of a question that I don't have an answer for, but I would like to work on. I want to stay in contact with these students and hear from them about their milestones and those kinds of things. And I've already heard from several of them wanting a little bit more guidance on applying for jobs here when the time comes and that kind of thing. So I need to figure out a good solution for that.
And there's some models like Take Stock in Children, which is a very different program, but there's mentoring involved in that. And I see an opportunity beyond just a summer program that's really fun. They learn a lot, but it's something to do as career development with them. And
Absolutely. And one of the things we did throughout the week was we collected business cards from all the different departments and professionals that we talked with along the way. And I encouraged the students to communicate with the people that they met, ask questions, reach out. And all the staff members also expressed that they'd be willing to answer questions and that kind of thing.
well, I echo the thanks of the other for taking this initiative, and thanks to these kids for your interest in ECUA. I hope you will continue to be interested. Mr. Woody.
For follow-up, the thought that came in my mind is summer intern program of some kind, perhaps.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to tie that in, almost kind of the summer program would almost be the precursor to an internship, and they could express kind of, oh, I was super interested in this department. I would like to apply for an internship. Yeah, absolutely. So I think we can make that happen in future years. Yeah.
And I have no more speakers, so thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
The next item is Recycle Star, and Ms. Campbell has agreed to draw the name for Recycle Star. And the winner is number 2, Monica Durbin. So Ms. Durbin will receive all of the awards in recognition for proper recycling. And the following other people were also in the mix because they did as well. Mr. Billy Mitchell, Philip Higgins, Kristen Chandler Smith, Giovanni Volpera, Rhonda and John Heflin, Jordan Higgins, Lelaine Cruz, John Dixon Jr., Diana Stanford, Stephanie Smith and Brendan Brogan, Daniel Cassidy, Cecilia Leathers, Robert McLean, Kenneth Godwin, Brenda Moser, Michael McCarthy, Rob Towns, Douglas Music, Billy Mitchell, Amber Slothin, does it every time, Joel Seth, Eric Kuhnast, Caitlin Bradley, Ashley Hall, Mike and Mackenzie McCullen, and Tom Parenteau. Thank you to all of you for being good recyclers and taking care of our environment. The next item is approval of the minutes, the regular board meeting of May 28th, 2024. Members, you have seen the minutes. Do you have any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes as submitted. Mr. Stevens moves it. Mr. Perkins seconds it. Yes. Yeah, I think it was adopted into it. Yeah. Thank you for the catch. And please vote. So we're still missing some. Everybody press their green or red button. Okay, it's not showing on my screen, so it passes 5-0. Right? My screen is frozen. Anybody else?
As well.
Yeah,
Just waiting.
yeah. Yeah, I refreshed and it didn't work. I did refresh. Now, if you do it and it works, it's going to make me really mad. Oh, see?
Okay, let me try.
Yeah, but it doesn't work because I refreshed mine. It didn't help. Oh, so we're good. Okay. All right. The next item is a report of the ECUA Citizens Advisory Committee of June 18th, 2024. And Ms. Campbell chaired that meeting. And Ms. Campbell, you're recognized for the presentation.
Thank you. The Citizen Advisory Council met on June 18th, Tuesday at 3 p.m. All members were present, with the exception of Mr. Rivera, who unfortunately had to resign. Item E was a presentation of the FY 2025 budget. Mr. Justin Smith, Director of Finance, provided a detailed presentation and update to the committee regarding the FY 2025 budget. Dr. Walker made a motion, seconded by Mr. Kirschner, for a 5% budget increase. The motion failed. Committee vote was 4-7. I'm not going to read all the names, but the names are on your report. A motion was made by Mr. Brown for an independent contractor to review and evaluate the MRF. After much discussion by the committee, Mr. Brown requested to amend his motion. A motion was made by Mr. Brown, second by Dr. Walker, to have an internal evaluation of the MRF, and the committee voted 10-0 in favor. The main motion was motion made by Ms. Benson, second by Mr. Brown, to approve the recommended budget as presented by staff. The committee voted 9-0 in favor, with Dr. Walker against the motion. There is one misspelling in that word too. Item G1 was adoption of general resolution GR 24-45, a general resolution authorizing executive director to sign an engineering services proposal from Arcadis for design of the piping system for a granular activated carbon treatment system to treat the water from the 9 Mile Road well site, authorizing the use of funds from CIP project RW0047, 9 Mile Road well granular activated carbon vessels. The recommendation was made by Mr. Stevens, second by Mr. Kirschner, that the board adopt General Resolution GR 24-45, and the committee voted 9-0 in favor. Item G2 is adoption of General Resolution GR 24-49, a general resolution authorizing the executive director to execute a purchase order with Fender Flender Corporation to provide a replacement surface aerator gearbox to be used as a spare for the Central Water Reclamation Facility, authorizing funding from the appropriate line item and providing an effective date. The recommendation motion made by Mr. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Kirschner, that the board adopt General Resolution GR 24-49, and the committee voted 9-0 in favor. Item G3 was adoption of General Resolution Number GR 24-50, a general resolution authorizing the Executive Director to execute renewal agreements with Florida Municipal Insurance Trust to renew medical insurance benefits with an effective date of October 1, 2024. Additionally, authorizing the Executive Director to execute renewal agreements with MetLife, the Standard Insurance Company, and Health Equity for group benefits with an effective date of October 1, 2024. Recommendation motion made by Mr. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Kirschner, that the board adopt General Resolution GR 24-50, and the committee voted 9-0 in favor. I would like to move items G1 through G3 for approval at this time.
Is there a second? It's seconded by Mr. Stevens. Does anyone wish to remove any of the items or discuss anything in this report?
Madam Chair, I just had a question.
Yes, you're recognized.
Thank you. Question relative to General Resolution 2449. How many of those gearboxes do we use at the reclamation facility?
Mr. Woody?
May I defer to Jerry Piscopo, who maintains that equipment? I believe we keep one in spare, but I don't know how many are actually in use throughout the system.
There's 12 of the 150 horsepower gearboxes on the facility. There's 3 on each biologic nutrient reactor basin. And so there's 4 basins, so there's 12 of the large gearboxes.
And that's just at Central?
Just at Central, there's 6 more at Bayou Marcus, 200 horsepower, and then Beach has smaller ones.
Okay.
Sir. And then there's 48 other mixers on those gearboxes on those same basins.
48?
48 more. Yeah, they're little ones. They're 15 horsepower, 10 horsepower.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions or discussion on these? If not, please vote. And it passes 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, ma'am, that concludes my report.
We come next to the consent agenda, and we will go through each item, and Mr. Woody will explain the item, and then we will proceed as we usually do. The first item is adoption of General Resolution Number GR 24-51, a general resolution authorizing the transfer of $180,000 in funds to CIP project R1701, cleaning and television inspection of sanitary sewers, annual contract with Ashton Mechanical, Inc., and Ranger Environmental Services, LLC, Strategic Alliance, with an increase in contract value to provide adequate funding for cleaning and television inspection of sanitary sewers and provide an effective date. Mr. Woody.
This type of contract is one where we provide a assumed amount of work to be done over the course of the year. In this particular instance, we had originally approved a contract amount of $364,674. The contract that took effect August 11th of 2023. We're just asking to complete an additional $180,000 worth of work under the existing contract prior to its expiration.
I see no one with questions on this item, so we will move to item B, adoption of General Resolution Number GR 24-52, a general resolution authorizing the extension of the contract with Allied Universal Corporation of Miami, Florida, for sodium hypochlorite and providing an effective date. Mr. Woody.
Sodium hypochlorite is a chemical we use for wastewater disinfection, both at the CWRF as well as Pensacola Beach. We currently have a contract with this company that allows for 2 one-year extensions. We're requesting that we have this be the second and final one-year extension at a price of $1.69 per gallon. To point out, this is a slight increase over our prior dollar amount, increase of about 6.3%. We did some close evaluations, however, of prices in the area. We looked at other organizations across the state that have opened bids in the last few months. The rate increases we see at those locations are in the order of 9 to 10%. So we feel comfortable with this recommendation to continue.
Thank you. Ms. Campbell?
Just a comment, not a question, but it's concerning to see raises on contracts that before we haven't, you know. So I hope it's not a sign of things to come. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell.
Did notice the next one had no increase, so.
The next item is item C, adoption of General Resolution Number GR 24-53, a general resolution authorizing the extension of the contract with Chemtrade Chemicals US LLC of Parsippany, New Jersey for aluminum sulfate and providing an effective date. Mr. Woody.
Yeah, aluminum sulfate is a chemical we use to treat wastewater for phosphorus removal, and we use that at all 3 of our wastewater treatment facilities. And this would be the second and final one-year extension of this contract with Chemtrade. They've agreed to move forward at the current pricing for this chemical.
And I see no speakers. So the next item is item D, adoption of General Resolution Number GR 24-54, a general resolution authorizing the waiver of automatic removal of Citizens Advisory Committee member Louis T. Brown III due to serious medical condition. Mr. Woody.
There are provisions within the code regarding mandatory attendance by CAC members. There's some allowances for missing meetings, but only a certain specified number of misses can be allowed before mandatory withdrawal. This board recently approved an amendment to that section that did allow for the application of a waiver regarding a serious medical condition. So in this particular resolution now, we are asking regarding one of our current CAC members to allow him some time away from the CAC.
Thank you, Mr. Woody. Mr. Williams, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank the board for looking at this issue on behalf of Mr. Brown. I think he will be a good steward of not making it a matter of question, but we will be glad we voted the way we do. So I thank you in advance.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Ms. Campbell.
I would just also like to echo Larry's comments. I think Mr. Brown gives a really good questions and really thinks about his place on the CAC. And I'm happy we made this policy change because, you know, we met 6 times in 1 month, and that's a lot to ask of a citizen that's not getting paid to be here. So I really appreciate the board making this policy change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. The next item, item E, is adoption of General Resolution Number GR 24-57, a general resolution authorizing the Executive Director to receive a 4% merit increase with effective date of June 25th, 2024, and any cost of living adjustment granted to the Emerald Coast Utilities Authority general employees in fiscal year 2025. You don't need to speak on that one, Mr. Woody. Does anyone wish to address this issue? Okay, item F is adoption of General Resolution Number GR 24-59, which is on your handout. It's a general resolution authorizing the executive director to execute a change order to the utility work by highway contractor UWHC agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation for water and sanitary sewer utility work on Garden Street, authorizing the transfer of project funds and providing an effective date. Mr. Woody.
The Florida Department of Transportation is undertaking a project to do resurfacing and improve drainage along State Route 30, also known as Garden Street, in the downtown area. If you flip over to the fourth page of the packet you've been handed, there's a brief exhibit there that shows the project limits, again on Garden Street from approximately J Street east back to almost A Street. The project scope of work there is pretty extensive in terms of underground work because of the stormwater drainage being in a low-lying area and fairly close to, relatively close to the water, all things considered. Pipes are fairly large diameter. There's some box culverts in the area as well. And that amount of work requires some relocation of our facilities in that corridor. We entered into a contract with FDOT in March of '24. We had an initial project estimate. We worked together with FDOT of about $2.1 million. Very recently, this month, I can't remember if it was in June or the end of May, this month in June, FDOT bid that project, and the contractor came back with a bid that exceeded our estimate by $1.4 million. Challenge is the FDOT is moving forward with their project. This is the end of their fiscal year. They need to send it to their board. They pretty much have kind of given us the strong encouragement that we needed to resolve that difference this month rather than wait till next month. Therefore, we added it to tonight's agenda. We are recommending as a funding source a project that, although was budgeted for this year, continues to get bumped down the road, specifically the Navy Point Sewer Expansion Phase 4. That project has been tied to a county stormwater drainage project that has languished a little bit while they look for grant funding and some other sources to help it. Right now, we're not even expecting design to begin until maybe FY26. So we're recommending in the short term, use that as a funding source, and then in a future fiscal year, we'll restore funding to the Navy Point project when it's appropriate and the county's moving forward with their project.
I see no speakers, but I want to make sure that we pledge that we are going to restore that funding to the Navy Point sewer expansion. That's a very important project to our community and to the people there, and it has faced too many delays, but the reality of doing what you're doing certainly makes sense, but I don't want to jeopardize it in any way. See no more speakers.
No? List it.
I'm sorry, what?
I selected myself to speak under.
Under item F?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't show up, so just go ahead.
No, just a question. I know we've had customers who've come before the board previously about flooding in the area, and I just wanted to know if this would positively impact the discussions they brought before us before. One particularly comes to mind is Dr. Horning.
That's not in this area.
Not, and then that lady who came a couple of months ago, I thought she was off of Garden, but her issue was more on her property. Right. But would this impact her area?
To answer both of your questions, the stormwater conveyance should certainly be improved. I think there's also a big concern for the age and condition of that infrastructure. There have been a number of occurrences of voids and undermining of pavement in that corridor due to failed joints of the storm sewer system. We even had a wastewater pipe that was damaged by the settling of I think it was like a 4x4 box culvert at the intersection near Spring. So that should definitely help the conveyance. I can't speak on behalf of their design as to how it improves the overall drainage of the system upstream or downstream. No, that wouldn't be appropriate. Certainly, I'm sure that's their intention and goal. Ms. Horning is several blocks downstream of this system, so the system would drain into her area. However, her issue has more to do with the elevation of the street and her residence relative to the natural water line and the changing tide elevations because she's so low. I don't think there will be a particular change, but that would be up to FDOT to really say. You also mentioned another lady who has who lives on the north side of Garden, who talked to us briefly. Her issue was regarding a lateral sewer connection rather than storm sewer on her private property.
But would this be in her area?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no. He was, okay, sorry. I stand corrected. Stacy says no.
Oh,
It's probably west of there.
yeah, west of it, I think, maybe a block or two.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Ms. Campbell?
Well, this is long overdue, so, I'm happy to see it coming, and I remember when that area collapsed not long ago. That was only a couple of years back when that collapsed there at Barrancas, and that's a very used corridor to downtown Pensacola, so I'm happy to see it. I get calls all the time of people, it's not even my district, but they call, I'm sure they call you, of how bad that road is right there, and when are we going to do something about our pipes? And I have to remind them that we don't handle drainage, so it's nice to see this coming, and I'm just wanting to know, how long do you think this project will last?
I would defer to Stacy, who talks more directly with FDOT, if he has that date in mind.
And you're recognized, Mr. Hayden, if you can negotiate the button.
Thank you, Ms. Benson. The project is anticipated to last about a year. I tried to pull the data sheet off the DOT's website, and I couldn't do it before the meeting, so I apologize for that.
So is that our portion of the project, moving of our?
The entire project is going to be about a year.
Do you know will there be interruption of water services during that time for?
I can't make those promises, but we have included in our design to make sure that we try to keep those businesses in service. I mean, that's the main thing. We actually put into the contract what we call inserter valves to make sure that the line pressure is kept and the flow is kept going, that we don't interrupt the service.
Okay.
But as far as making promises of, the errant hit to a service or something like that, it's not our intention. It's our intention to keep everything going.
Thank you.
So you have the Studer Institute is in that area, and the Pensacola State College work building is there. So there are quite a few businesses in that.
I think they're on the other side, aren't they?
So they're not going to be affected by this?
I think this runs from A to J, so it's A Street back my way towards
Okay, it's
Pace
west of
Boulevard,
there.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hayden. I see no more speakers. Does anyone wish to pull any of the items from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Williams.
I'd like to pull item under consent A.
Okay, we're pulling item A. Does anyone else want to pull any items? If not, we will entertain a motion for items B through F. For a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
Been moved by, Ms. Campbell, and, seconded by Mr. Perkins. Any further discussion? Okay, please vote. And it passes unanimously. We return to item A now, which is the general resolution number GR 53, extending the contract with Chemtrade Chemicals. Mr. Williams, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask these questions earlier. So we don't own any of the underground television or equipment?
Oh, we certainly do. We do a tremendous amount of it ourselves with our own staff, our regional staff. I think they have several of those units and crews dedicated to doing nothing but that work. However, with the over $9.5 million that we spend annually with doing I&I work, it's more cost effective to contract some of it rather than to staff up to those levels. So we have both in-house staff as well as contracted staff to meet our total goals for the year.
Okay.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion, if that satisfies your
Yes, ma'am,
concern.
that satisfies me. Thank you,
On
Madam Chair.
a motion for item A, moved by Ms. Campbell and seconded by Mr. Perkins. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. The next item is the budget report of May 2024, the year-to-date budget report, and Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon. I have your May 31st, 2024 year-to-date budget report. That's 67% of our fiscal year. And for the water and wastewater divisions, their operating budgets, they've currently spent 62%, which is slightly under the 67%. And sanitation and MRF are at 59% of their operating budgets. So most of the divisions are within 60 to 70% of their year-to-date spend. So there's not much out of the ordinary for this month. Anyone have any questions?
Seeing no questions. Gated through. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report.
You'll remember that one of our large capital improvement projects going on right now is construction of major improvements to what used to be called the West Well, located near the intersection of Cervantes and I Street. We are constructing a new well location about 3 blocks to the north and have already had a groundbreaking ceremony and dedicating its new name as Elvin McCorvey Memorial Well. We are constructing at that location a new well, a new water treatment facility, pumping facility, and ground storage water tank. Originally on that site, there was just a 500,000 gallon elevated water tower that was taken down. State of progress at the moment at that location, we have completed the construction of the outer walls and dome of the water tank. They're getting ready to put a sealer coat on that concrete structure, and will very soon need to begin the painting work. Since this is in a residential neighborhood and it is a well site that we've memorialized in honor of Mr. Elvin McCorvey, I thought it would be appropriate to get the board's input on the painting scheme for that ground storage tank. And when I say scheme, I don't mean to make it more complicated than it is, the color. Although we have admittedly a large palette to choose from to help things along a little bit, we've kind of narrowed it down to 6. If you don't like these, we can certainly go back to the palette. But I'd like to pass around, if you would look at some paint color sticks that have some colors on them. What you'll see are two colors in the rough shades of off-white, two colors that are in shades of light green, and two colors that are in shades of light blue. Staff have all talked about various color options, but we very much appreciate your input and direction.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
question.
sure.
Which color is in the diagram?
Which colors are in the diagram?
The presentation you have posted?
Oh, the presentation site?
Looks like aqua.
Yeah, I can't,
Not really
I
an
can't
aqua.
confidently say that it directly represents one of those
No.
colors.
It's more green than that.
That was put together as a rendering from the architect. While it is a shade of green, I believe. Yeah, it doesn't really necessarily represent one of the colors you hold in your hand.
Okay.
Probably closer to the aqua.
Yeah, each shade has their advantages and disadvantages, so.
What did,
We didn't put a sample of pure white because our experience is that is way too bright, reflects light, blinds people, shines in people's windows, and whatnot, wouldn't be appropriate. That's the reason why the whites have pale grayish tints to them. We have used greens in the past, some of those associated with wastewater facilities as opposed to water facilities. We've used both green and I think some shades of blue in our wastewater tanks. Excuse me, our water tanks.
So we don't have a motion on the table, but I'm going to suggest that we use a dark green that's closest to the canopy of trees to blend in rather than stand in contrast to the natural setting. You'll need to make it as a motion. You need to make it as a motion. I can't make a motion.
That's right. I would make a motion to.
So we need a second. We have a motion for a shade of green.
I hit my second button.
Okay.
It's stuck again. it looks
Yeah.
like.
So it's been moved and seconded. And just let me add, I will get my color, my fan deck color, and I'll suggest some colors if
Yes.
that's appropriate. I'll just call you with one, and we can copy each other. Okay. Okay. So we need a vote. We have a motion by Ms. Stevens, Mr. Stevens, second by Ms. Campbell. Please vote.
And I can even add that if you want, to be approved by
Okay,
the chairman. Thank you.
that's what I do.
What she does.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
is that color that you're speaking of the color of this diagram?
No, that's much more aqua than the existing one. I'd go with a much darker green that's kind of the color of the leaves of the tree.
Okay.
Mr. Williams, if you could just vote yes or no.
There we go. and it passes 5-0. Mr. Woody, do you have more to report on your executive director's report?
No, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Pugh, is there an attorney's report today?
No, Madam Chair, nothing to add.
Then we go now to unfinished business, and I brought up the issue of backflow preventers. When we voted about this issue a couple of months ago, it was certainly reluctantly done by the majority who voted in favor of what we did, and we believed that we had almost no choice under DOP's regulation. And I think we've always been surprised that other utilities haven't objected more to backflow preventers, their cost, and so forth. But the truth is that most other utilities provide this service, so customers are not aware of the expense. Several years ago, and I don't remember when, and maybe Mr. Perkins can help, our board voted to have the Haas Center do a study of backflow preventers, the risks and costs associated with these. And you may remember that the Haas Center did that study, and the Haas Center is a very reputable organization that does studies like this. When the report was brought back to the ECUA, Mr. Sorrell disagreed with what the Haas Center said, and he actually changed the report that came to us. I think it's appropriate, as long as we're doing this, I want all the knowledge that I have, and maybe there will be a time that we can affect this again, but I would like to have staff research that report, get access to it, and in as much as possible, determine what edits were made that were outside the actual report that the Haas Center and their conclusions were. So we would need a motion to refer this to staff to investigate this and come back to us with information regarding this report. Mr. Stevens.
Going back to.
So can we get it on the table, even if you decide, if you'll just make a motion to get it on the table? So you need to move it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, actually, okay. So the motion is to refer to staff.
It's not right on there.
Oh, yeah, that's not right.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. Okay, now it's time for discussion.
No, and we had our difference of opinion and discussion about this. I believe we had staff come up here, and that was one question we asked was, what are some documented incidences where this has been a problem? Because I'm a big believer, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, to a degree anyway. And staff, and I'm not putting words in staff, but I believe I took from that, we don't have any incidents of any issues with this, and not here. And I don't know if there are any in other parts of Florida. I could be mistaken on that.
So, Mr. Stevens.
So is that, I'm just saying, would this report you speak of refute that?
This report looks at the bigger picture, not just Escambia County. It looks at the issue. The motion is to refer. And so this is really weird, but all of our discussion has to be on whether or not to refer this to staff.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
no,
moved it
but I
or
mean,
was
that's
it-
what the discussion needs to be. It's not on to the substance of the backflow preventer, but
Okay.
only whether or not we refer this issue to staff. And I know that's kind of weird, but any other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Williams?
we're on a timeline, aren't we? For the
Oh, no,
backflow preventers? No, the backflow preventers were supposed to be done by a
It's-
certain time,
Yeah,
correct?
right. This doesn't change any of that. This
Okay.
is just getting information for whatever we do on the future.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Sure, no, legitimate. Okay. Since I cannot recognize speakers with the way this program is, if there's, yes, Ms. Campbell.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I think I have a copy of the Haas study. If
Okay, good.
I have a copy of that study, I remember it well. I remember the incidents and everything, so.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So we are now voting on whether to refer this to staff. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item is Ms. Campbell on bulk waste. Ms. Campbell, you're recognized.
Thank you. So I received a call this week from a gentleman, Mr. Creighton. He works at Navy Federal Credit Union, and he just wanted to talk about the bulk waste change and how we changed that and how a lot of people don't know. He's, I believe, on Pipeline Road, and he felt like that a lot of people, elderly people especially, and not just a lot of citizens, still don't know. And I love when somebody doesn't call just to complain, they call to make recommendations. And he recommended that we do something different with those people on auto pay, because he says people that are on auto pay, you and I might read the pipeline, and I'm very bad guilty of not reading the pipeline, but he said the people on auto pay never read the pipeline. So, and I kind of agree with him that they probably don't, because it's on auto pay, it comes out of their bank account, they don't get a bill in the mail like paper people do. So maybe we could look at some other, like emailing them or texting them, as he suggested. So, you know, I just thought maybe we'd look at that and see if there were other things we could do for those, just for those people that are on auto pay that still may not know about it.
And will you make that into a motion, Ms. Campbell?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we look into another way to tell the people on auto pay about the bulk waste pickup. And maybe that's already been done, but.
And Mr. Stevens seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd like to know, have we addressed that at all with those who are on auto pay? Have they been advised to the change in policy?
Mr. Woody, you recognize?
Yes, in the same way that others do. Mr. Justin Smith can add to that. We do send them an email.
So even the people that are on auto pay, that is their payment method, not how they receive their bill or communications. So you could be set up on auto pay and still get a paper bill in the mail. Now, I mean, personally, I have some bills that are on auto pay, and when I get the paper bill, I usually throw it away. I don't read it, but it's there. I mean, that was, but they do either receive a bill in the mail or an emailed bill, and the ones that are emailed, they have the pipeline included in that email. There's an attachment, and they've got the bill and the pipeline that comes to their email if they've elected electronic billing. But if not, they still get it one way, either in the mail or through email.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Woody?
The only thing I might add, Mr. Williams and I have talked about frustrations in some areas maybe where there might be a higher incidence of infamiliarity with the bulk waste program. Although this is an expensive way to advertise, we've talked about billboards, maybe a worthwhile investment in maybe some rotating locations, so that through repetition, people who are driving the same corridors might see a message. maybe rotate that around town. So that's something we need to investigate. But that is, it is more expensive, so it's the reason we haven't done it today.
Probably more expensive right now, too.
During
Than
election
it-
time.
Yeah,
we'll-
than it will be after November, so.
Yeah.
And so maybe we could broaden the motion to include other methods of communication regarding bulk waste. Since this
Yes.
continues to be a problem,
Yeah, I will amend that to continue to look for alternative methods of communication of the bulk waste pickup changes overall.
and.
That's okay with Kevin.
You want to second that? Okay. Any further discussion on that?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Williams.
So I know we also talked about putting like a stamp on the back of their bill that just stated that there was a bulk waste policy change, and to call customer service for bulk waste pickup. I mean, not so much the billboard initially, but something that before they put it in the garbage, maybe they'll turn it over and see the red ink and the phone number and wonder if it pertains to them. But I tell you, the bottom line is it's still an issue with many of our customers. And it's something that we need to resolve. We really need to resolve this because for those who pay their bills, it affects them too when they ride down the street. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address this? As I understand the motion as amended is that you're going to look at many methods of communication, and you'll come back to us with specifics on how to communicate so we can get more compliance with this. Thank you for bringing this up, Ms. Campbell, and thank you for those who spoke. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. The next item of business is new business, and we have none. Board communications, and Mr. Williams indicated he wanted to speak.
It's just a friendly, cordial thought for the holiday that's coming up. Wanted to wish all constituents, as we did last meeting, happy Juneteenth. Want to also wish everyone a happy 4th of July as we get ready to celebrate between now and our next time to assemble as a body. So happy 4th of July to all.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. The next item is open forum, and I have no pink slips. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Mr. Stevens. Please vote.
To adjourn?
To adjourn, yeah. Apparently you're supposed to. I've been reading. And do not vote no.
Are you sure we're supposed to vote to adjourn?
And golly gee, it passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. It is on, yeah, I'm just trying to
Mr.
get us
Hayden.
back on track.
Mr. Hayden.